Hello, everybody. Welcome.
Hello, hello. Welcome again to our Energies and Opportunities broadcast. As you know, we do this monthly. We're looking at the energies of the upcoming month. We're going to start today with just a little bit of the last bit of March, and then we'll be looking at fairly busy and quite significant month of April with an eclipse, a beginning pair of eclipses happening.
Few odds and
A
ends.
few really important planetary changes. So we're excited to have you with us. We'll be with you for an hour, broadcasting today on Saturday, the 25th of March. And we'd like to let you know before we begin with all the information that we have for you that we have opened a new program. It's actually not quite launched for applications yet, but it's a program that it's something Chetan's been doing for a number of years, just by private invitation only, where he privately mentors clients who are ready to take the next step in their life in terms of their self-actualization and aligning themselves with their truth, with their design, with the way that they move in life and function in life and do business in life and have relationships in life that are going to be the most successful for them. So it's one-on-one, private, deep dive mentoring with Chetan. That's going to be, I think, right around the 25th or the 29th of March, coming up in just a few days. You'll see that coming available, but the page for it is live now. So you can go to our website and you'll see there's a new tab there. And that tab is mentoring. You just click on that and you can read about privately working with Chetan. That page might be down a little bit from time to time this last few days as we're getting all the remaining pieces together, but you will see it announced anyway in email. So that's our big news. This is exciting.
Yeah, I look forward to having some really profound times.
Yeah. It's been life-changing for the people who've worked with you privately.
Yeah, there's a before and there's an after, that's for sure.
Yeah, and so we're opening it to those of you who are in our community who might be ready to take that next leap in your life. Okay, so take a look at that when it comes out. Shall we begin?
Do this.
Okay, yeah. So we just recently entered the second quarter of this year, and you know that the year we're calling this year 2023 the year of our dramatic wake-up call to heal global relations. And I think by now, as far as we are into the year, late March, we can see that indeed we are having a very dramatic wake-up call, that there is a great need to heal. We're in a global crisis, maybe for the first time in recorded history, where the entire world is participating in the crises and aware of it all at the same time. And the essential thing that needs to be healed within our world is, first of all, is our relationships. So I'm talking more broadly in terms of relationships with, with other countries, but really we're talking about all relationships. So this is the time in which the focus starts to move to the quality of our relationships and what are we doing to contribute to that quality of our relationships. So this year we really are in a turning point of 100 years of progression into the age of Aquarius, out of the age of Pisces. So right around the early 1960s, we began progressing, finishing up the age of Pisces, moving into the age of Aquarius. And, humanity since then has been grappling with.
We're coming out of Capricorn, aren't we?
No, we're coming out of the age of Pisces and going
into
globally, the age of Aquarius.
I thought you were talking about Pluto.
I'm talking about the age we're in. So an age lasts for more than 2,000 years.
Got it.
Right. So we've been in a about 2,300 year process of the age of Pisces. It's the age of religion, the age of belief. We're transitioning now into the age of Aquarius, which is the age of humanity. It's the age in which we have the opportunity to take self-responsibility for our own creation. And we'll be talking about that a little bit more as we go. So, we've been grappling with as a world community with this adaptation from nationalization to globalization. And we've now reached a crisis point. If we track it back a bit, we see that the seeds for this big transformation that we're now were planted when Pluto first went into Capricorn. Pluto is a planet of transformation, and Capricorn is a planet that represents all of our systems, all the traditional systems that have been in place, our banking systems, political, healthcare systems, educational systems, monetary information systems have all been going through a big transformation, first by being deeply challenged and really bringing us to a point where we need to find solutions. And it's in that need to find solutions that, of course, the solutions come. So, and the other thing that's really pivotal for right now as we're broadcasting here today is today and tomorrow, the planet Pluto, this planet of transformation, it works through a process of death and rebirth. So we let the old die away so that the new can get born. And this is the day that Pluto enters the sign of Aquarius. Now, because it has a really long orbit, it takes a while to enter a new sign. So it'll dip its toe into the new sign and then it'll retrograde back out of it a bit, and then it'll go back in for a bit. So that's actually been going on already, but we're in the crux of it now in 2023, where Pluto goes into the sign of Aquarius for almost 3 months before it retreats back into Capricorn. And when it does that, it'll stay in Capricorn for the remainder of the year. So we still have, with Pluto in the last little dregs of Capricorn, we still have the crumbling, the cracks in the system that are starting to cause many systems to actually just collapse. They're just not working anymore. Plus, we have at the same time a lot of innovation going on to create new systems that will work. So we're in a pivotal part of the year in which we really must face the reality of what's no longer working, and not just on a global scale or on our national scale, but in our own lives, what's no longer working. And we need to get highly innovative about our approach to the future. So to get a more complete picture of the new season that we're entering right now, the second quarter of the year, we need to go back a bit and look at how 2023 began, because it's an unusual year in that the planet Mars, which has to do with our work in the world, had been in the sign of Gemini since actually late August of 2022. It's been almost 6 months in the sign of Gemini because it turned retrograde, which, as you know, I think that's apparent backwards motion. That started the last few days of October of 2022 and lasted until mid-January of this year. So it's only now in this third to fourth week of March, right around March 25th, as we're broadcasting, that Mars is leaving the sign of Gemini and really picking up speed again and entering the sign of Cancer. So 6 months of a lot of challenge in terms of our communications and world communications, now moving into the sign of Cancer. So we've been in this deeper view of how we communicate and how we deliver whatever we have to deliver in the world. And we've been working on the disparities that have surfaced. And those disparities in values have led to a lot of financial instability and global uncertainties. That's where we stand right now. So we got to the point of maximum challenge last November, but we reached again another point of maximum challenge all this month of March, as the planet Mars, while it was continuing its movement through Gemini, began a really challenging aspect with Neptune and Pisces. Neptune is our higher vision. It's our spiritual vision for our way of connecting with truth, or with God, if you will, with spirit itself. And it's really begging the question, this challenge begging the question, is what we say we believe in, is that actually what we live? Do we live what we know to be our beliefs? So what we're being invited into now is aligning our choices and our actions with our innermost truth. So it's a bit of background of what we've been working with as we now enter this time of late March and going into this very eventful month of April.
So at this particular time, from the human design perspective, the big excitement, in a sense, is this movement of Pluto into the sign of Aquarius. From the human design perspective, we're talking about hexagram number 60. And hexagram number 60, for those familiar with human design, it's the gateway called limitation. It's right in the root center at the bottom of the whole design, and it's in what we call the individual circuitry. And the significance, from my understanding of Pluto going into Aquarius, is basically its power to the people. It's time for the resurrection of the individual, being done with being trampled on by despots, by ridiculous political systems, by unfair judicial systems, by funky financial systems, all of this stuff. You look around the world at the moment and you kind of look at the photographs of people that are apparently in charge. It's like, who are these people? What's the background there? How on earth did they get in this position? How on earth did we allow them to get in this position? So I'm not calling out for a revolution. I'm just saying, individuals are getting fed up with the status quo, with the way things are being done, with the literally pathetic performance of politicians in the world and bankers and all these people, the vested interests. So just, be in good heart and just see things are going to have to change. And, just this last couple of days, the sun has been transiting through gateway number 25, the gateway of innocence. And we've all had this kind of sense of refreshment, in a way, of looking around things. And it's like, yeah, it's possible. We can go back into a much healthier space. And the life theme for these last couple of days has been the life theme of healing. And so just, it makes me feel really great. We had this new moon within the gateway number 25. And there's a whole sense of freshness in the air, in a way. A lot of people have been making a lot of noise about absolutely nothing. And basically, we're all getting fed up with it. So, it's that time for us to come into our individual power. And these couple of eclipses that are coming up, they're going to kind of set up a very particular pattern for us. I said in our last broadcast, I think at the beginning of the broadcast, the month of March, growing up in England, there's the weather.
Always the weather.
There was always this thing, March, it either comes in like a lamb and goes out like a lion, like a big roar at the end of it. Honestly speaking, it looks like the whole month of March has been a constant roar. It's like all these crazy things going on. And I don't think the end of the month is going to be any different, really. And just to enjoy the fact that we're in this space and time where everything is morphing, everything is to change. And we really are. This age that we're moving into is the age where the individual reclaims the power. We've got to be clear about this. The collective, the mass of humanity, society in general, or whatever, is made up of individuals, right? And it's just this thing, we've been kind of hoodwinked into subscribing to whatever the collective process is, rather than realizing, actually, I've got a sovereign life here, right? I didn't come here to be anyone else. I didn't come here to join somebody else's party necessarily. I might like part of it, but I'm not going to like all of it necessarily. So I have to stand my ground and claim it. Mm-hmm. And so that really is the energy that we're moving into now. For me, it's really exciting to kind of get this uplifting of energy and this sense of possibility going forward. So let's have a look. Let's have a look. See, what's written in the sky.
All of this really began at the spring equinox, which we had on March 20th. So spring equinox in the northern hemisphere, the fall equinox in the southern hemisphere. But essentially, an equinox is a turning point. It's a time when we complete one whole season, one whole sort of phase of expression and of experience. And there's a pause, and we begin an entire new phase of experience. The interesting thing about the spring equinox that we just had on 20th is that following it the next day, on March 21st, we had a new moon at 1 degree of Aries. And every month we have a new moon, and the new moon begins a new cycle. So we see in the energies of that new moon placement what we're going to be experiencing for the next 30 days. The essence of it, the structure of the experience. And what this one's about is really bringing our awareness again to the need for really systemic transformation in all of society's foundational structures across the board. And then with Mars entering the sign of Cancer, as it does that, it forms a really favorable aspect with Saturn. And Saturn has to do with form and structure, law and order. It has to do with the underpinnings of how our third dimensional reality is held together. The structures that hold it in place, time, space, gravity, cause and effect. So that's Saturn, the laws that govern our third dimensional reality. With Mars now going into this triangle with Saturn, what we have is this possibility of beginning this new season with the potential for really practical solutions to very long, outdated systems and processes. So we're going to see quite a bit of high innovation, and we're going to keep seeing that as the month continues on. On a personal level, for each of us, we're all going to be affected differently by these aspects. So if your planets in the astrological wheel are near to these points, like if you've got planets that are in a similar placement to where this Mars aspect with Saturn's happening, then you're going to be really especially affected by it. If it's happening in gates and lines that you have activated in your design, it's going to have a very definite effect in how you're moving through life. And it'll affect us in different areas of our life. So, this is a call to systemic transformation, but it's also a call to inner transformation for ourselves and what areas of our life that we might be specifically working on transforming. That's a very individual and unique thing. It could be your home life, your personal relationships. It could be your career or your business life or your health or any aspect of your life that is up for big transformation. So, wow, I think spring is coming in like a lion. And we'll begin looking at the month of April in just a moment. We'll really start with the first quarter moon that happens right at the end of March on the 28th, because that first quarter moon takes the energy of the new moon that we had on the 21st of March and brings it into some kind of form of expression where we can kind of get our arms around it. So those last few days of March, when we have this first quarter moon, the first quarter moon is in Cancer, it's going to bring us a powerful call to action with, of course, the planet of action, Mars, finally leaving Gemini, entering the sign of Cancer. We talk about those aspects. So for the remainder of March and until April 10th, Mars is going to be in this very favorable flowing aspect with Saturn. So this is the time when we have these favorable aspects for business planning, to create a more successful career objectives, for practical solutions to become apparent, and for that knowledge or the people or the resources that are needed to put new plans into place. All of that becomes available in this first part of the month of April. The other thing happening right here at the very end of March, as we enter April, the planet of love and beauty and romance and money and all the yummy things in life in its own home sign of Taurus, very comfortable there, but in an exact conjunction, so right together exactly in the sky with the planet of awakening, Uranus. So that's making us aware of the kinds of changes that are needed in our handling of material resources. So we'd be looking at, whatever investments we have or the general path of money flow, and especially in early April, we'll see that it's time to take action on the monetary decisions that we're making in order to stay up with the times. So that's a bit of an overview of as we complete and wrap up the month of March and move into April.
I wanted to say a little bit more about the significance of the movement of Pluto into Aquarius. It occurred to me to look back, is there a historical precedence, what it is that's happened in the past? And the last time that Pluto was moving into Aquarius, there was a kind of a fallout between the forming of the United States and the British.
Kind of fallout.
Tea parties in Boston and things like that. And basically, there was the rising of the power of the individual in the United States. And we would have to say, if you look at the design for the United States for the Declaration of Independence, it is an individual state, a country. That's the declaration. It was formed, it was put together and signed off on in the chart of individuality. So America really is a country of individuals. It's kind of finding its way through. I thought, since I grew up in jolly old England and, history was a very important thing in school in those days, I decided to look back another cycle to where Pluto was before, and it was the time of Henry VIII. Now, you've heard of this character, the guy that had 6 wives and, just fell out with everybody one way or another. But in particular, he fell out with the Roman Catholic Church. And who knows what the background of it all was. Historians write what they will, but nevertheless, England divorced itself from the Roman Catholic Church and set up its own gig, set up its own way of worship. Became Protestant and, had a Church of England instead. And the Protestant thing scattered, it was already forming in Germany and other places, I think. And it's had this huge effect. And I look forward, what is this thing at this time in the world when people reclaim their sovereignty and their rights? It is basically, we're done with everybody else's ideas of stuff. We're fed up with being spoon-fed nonsense. And you'll look at, deeply into a lot of the religions on this planet as they really, you go right down to the core of it. It's like, is there anything really substantial there? Or is it just a kind of fuzzy belief system? And, it's up to every individual to work this out for themselves. But here we are in the United States, we have a Supreme Court, which is made up of, I think it's 80% Roman Catholics. And Roman Catholics have an agenda about abortion and birth control and these kinds of things. And, it's all down to a personal, individual stance on these things. But, why would you decide that somebody else can't have control over their body or decide whether they're going to have children or not? And you look at it and say, well, we want more people in our congregation. So therefore, we're not going to have birth control. We're not going to have abortion. And we're just going to have lots more babies and people joining our church and stuff like that. So,
that's one idea.
There are a few of them that do this. And it's like when you look at it closely and you see, my goodness, what an extraordinary way to undermine somebody else's lifestyle. Yes, it's fabulous having children, but let's have conscious children. Let's have really deliberate, loving presence while we're producing these children and not be producing kids that are always going to be in a state of stress in the early days. Anyway, that's my soapbox part. As we come to the end of the month of March, there's this whole thing of moving out. The life theme as we go out of the end of March is the life theme of upheaval. And we started the month with the life theme of migration. And the migration is basically looking around yourself and just saying, am I still tied into what I'm doing here? Is it time for a shift? Should I start finding a new group or some alternative place to put my energies? And as we go out, the upheaval is really shaking us all up and saying, yeah, it's time to really move and shake a little bit. And if we're applying it in our life, making moves in our life, great. If we're kind of changing careers, things like that, great. If we're changing where we live, also great. But it's also just seeing, hang on a minute, let's catch the energy this time. Let's just see, where am I giving my power away to everybody else? And what is it that I know clearly inside myself, regardless of anybody else's morality system? What do I know clearly inside myself that is right for me? And that is the most important thing any of us can ever attach into. What is our frequency? What are we relating to here? What do we come here for? And life is the opportunity, it's the chance to create purpose. And that is something that's true for all of us. Yeah, what is the purpose here? You know, births, marriages, and deaths, what is it? Is it to be fulfilled in life? So this is a great question for all of us. As we tip out at the end of March, we go into April Fool's Day. Let's see what it is that's coming up for us.
Let's be foolish. Okay, so as we enter April, one of the first things that we experience is a full moon. So that full moon's been building up since that first quarter moon that we had on the 28th of March. And now when we get to April 5th, we have a full moon in Libra. What's, you know, every time we come to this part of the year, we're going to have a full moon in Libra opposite the sun in Aries. So that in itself isn't an unusual occurrence. It happens once a year. But this year, when we have the full moon, and you know, the full moon shines light on whatever it is that we're working on, whatever the seed that was planted at the new moon, and has been gathering some steam and gathering energy. And it's the new creation for this particular month. The new things we'll be working with or learning about or doing. It starts to build momentum, and it reaches its maximum point of momentum right around the full moon and in the days following the full moon. So this is the time when the energies that have all been building, they can come to the fullest light. They can be seen most clearly, and that happens, you know, once a month. This month, while the moon's in Libra, what it's shedding light on is the sun, not only in Aries, which is about moving forward in new directions and new pathways, forging new pathways, but it's also, the sun is together with the planet Chiron and also with Jupiter. So Chiron and Jupiter, both all in Libra. Sorry, I'm getting some notice.
Keep going.
Distracting me highly. Okay, let's see if I can get back to this. So the sun is together with Chiron and Jupiter. Chiron is the body of space that has to do with our potential as human beings to link our lower self with our higher self, to have an actual experience of our soul energy, our soul or our spirit's being while we're embodied in physical form. That's the potential that Chiron brings us. And then, of course, Jupiter is the planet of expansion and growth and new adventures. And also, we've got the sun, Chiron, and Jupiter all together in Aries, which really, that combination brings this, it's like healing. It brings soul alignment in that process with Chiron together with the expansive, growth-oriented Jupiter just brings all kinds of new powerful possibilities into our life. It certainly makes for a powerful full moon that shines light on everything that's possible for us to create. So this is the time, this full moon time, April 5th, right around that time, to really get clear on our vision. And don't let fear slow you down. Don't let the fear in the culture, there's a lot of fear in the culture right now. If you're reading the news or, you know, you're getting input from anywhere other than highly conscious beings, you're going to be reading things that may make you feel fearful. They're designed to make you feel fearful because they're about the falling apart of the systems that we've been so used to relying on. But the fact that those systems are falling apart is not cause for fear. It's actually cause for celebration.
Yes.
Because, all right, it might be disturbing in our lives and we might have to make changes, and we will have to make changes. And perhaps it'll even be awkward, but what's coming behind those changes is the option to create a whole new way of living for humanity. So it's really huge. The other thing that's happening at this time is Venus, the planet of love and beauty and art and money flow and all that. It moves into a really deeply inspiring aspect with Neptune. Neptune being the planet that represents our higher spiritual nature. So it brings this high vision and spiritual wisdom together in ways that can readily be expressed and integrated into our lives. And then the last thing around this full moon, Mercury, which is the planet of communication, it's gone into a very practical sign, Taurus. Taurus is practical, it's grounded, it's about being taking things step by step and doing things in a way that makes sense, that's practical, that's useful, and it's moving in connection with the moving soul path for all humanity. So what we're looking at is our values, all of humanity, really looking at, because it's our values that should inform the underpinning of society. All of those systems that are falling apart because the values that created them are no longer viable for us. They're no longer meaningful for us. So what are the new values that we know that we can embrace and adopt? And that's what the new systems will be built upon. So it's a huge, big call to change, to transformation, that's prompted by the urging that's coming from Pluto moving into Aquarius.
Intense times, but also great fun times, when we kind of lift our head above the crisis. And I use the word crisis because I'm looking at the planet Neptune. And Neptune, takes a long time to go around. What is it, 100 and some odd years to go around us? No. Neptune
is 177 years.
There we are, 177. So, unless you're very, very ancient, Neptune's coming back to somewhere nobody's been before that's alive. And it's in gateway number 36 at the moment, which in the human design chart, it's the gateway in the emotion center. It's the last of the emotional gateways. So Neptune's done a whole movement through our emotions these last years. And 36 is the gate of crisis, or crisis resolution, I prefer to call it. And Neptune has everything to do with our spiritual nature. It kind of tunes into the essence of love in a very profound way. And in these early days, of 2023, it's been kind of quietly sidling further and further into gateway number 36 and just exploring with us, what is the inner crisis, particularly on a spiritual level? Have we lost touch with our connection with ourselves or our own godliness, our own spiritual nature? Have we lost touch with that? Or is it time to kind of maybe reconnect, like go beyond all the things that we've been told we're supposed to believe in, and start believing in ourselves, in our own connection here. So that is something that goes on throughout 2023. What is also happening is the planet Uranus. You talked about it, Venus in particular having a very nice connection with Neptune.
With Uranus.
Yeah, but Venus and Uranus are quite close together with each other at the moment, and they actually have a conjunction. They come into exactly the same place together in gateway number 2 in the human design, which is the gateway of receptivity. So, here's the energy of love and what we draw to us, and at the same time, the awakening energy of Uranus that raises us up potentially into another dimension or another completely different understanding about things, another perception. Yeah. Uranus I always see as the planet of breakthrough. We're kind of focused on something, and then all of a sudden there's a whole different panorama opens up in front of us. It's like, oh, where did that come from? It was always there, but we just didn't have necessarily the way to see it or the consciousness to attune to it. So a lot of surprises in this thing, that love is really getting a tremendous boost at this time in terms of, hang on, I was so limited in my horizons, and now I can see so much further and so differently. Mercury goes into gateway number 3 briefly at the beginning of the month of April, and because it's in gateway number 3, we're having this connection with Pluto in gateway number 60. So for a few days, we get this sense of the mutation that's possible, the shift that's taking place for all of us. Pluto, after all, is, now lodging itself in Aquarius for most of this year. And then, Mercury just kind of adding to it and just say, hang on, the jump is possible here. There's a possibility of doing something very differently. And as Carola says, do not get overly concerned about it. It's just a lot of pieces moving around. And then we come to the full moon. Is it an eclipse, this particular full moon, or not yet? The next one is, so I think. Yeah. Anyway, full moon, and right in the beginning, I think we're on the 5th of April, and it happens in gateway number 57. And in the I Ching, 57 is this gateway that's called the Gentle. The Gentle, it's a fascinating name for a game. What is the Gentle? It's like the wind that moves so slowly and so quietly that it penetrates into you and you find yourself, you've got a chill all of a sudden, and you didn't even know there was a wind blowing at all. And it's the allegory is towards intuition. That slowly, 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 all of a sudden you come to a different realization. Oh my goodness. Oh goodness, I didn't know that. I didn't see that. And, you know, it's a very gentle tap on the shoulder, or it's just that sense of all of a sudden I got a chill. Something penetrated into me. And it's taking place in 57, and the line 2, which is called infiltrating, recognizing hidden agendas. Yeah, here's me going on with saying, you know, all this stuff we've been told about life and our belief systems and all these things, you know, these kind of fairy stories, a lot of them. But anyway, your intuition penetrates the meanings hidden from other senses. You know, when you get an intuition, where did that come from? How do I suddenly know that? I know it. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to question it. It's like, got it. Yeah. Your intuition penetrates the meanings hidden from other senses, giving you to act nobly or not. And there's always the balance. What am I going to do with this intuition? Am I going to pull a fast one on somebody? You know, am I going to get away with something? Or am I going to be noble with it? Am I going to, you know, just see what is the right thing that needs to happen in this particular time? So again, you know, full moon is always a very bright thing in the sky at night. And just to be aware of that, it's on the 5th. And at the same time, Mercury conjoins our North Node, which is the destiny path for humanity. And that is in gateway number 7, which is all about 27, which is the gateway of all about nourishing ourselves. How do we nourish ourselves? How do we look after ourselves? How do you nourish yourself best? By looking after yourself, looking after the people that are dear to you, looking after the situations in your life that really have meaning for you. You know, and it all leads for a very, very wholesome life experience. So that is the first week. Let's move over to the astrological viewing of things.
It's really the deep question of our times right now, isn't it? It's what makes for quality of life.
Yeah.
You know, if we look at what a lot of the younger generation has been, you know, we have the Great Resignation, right? During everybody quitting their jobs and recognizing perhaps that this, you know, working for low wages and, you know, spending more than 40 hours of every week working at something that's maybe not fulfilling. You know, people starting to wake up and realize that, wait a minute, quality of life is more important. Quality of life needs to come first. And we're not just human doings, we're human beings. We're not here to just be workhorses. We're here to be and have an experience and grow in wisdom. And in order to do that, we can't feel like we're imprisoned by a job that's not fulfilling or a way of living that is too taxing, that doesn't give us the time to breathe, to look up and see the sky, to dream, to love, to share, to commune with each other. So the values are really going through a big shift right now. So we have this amazing full moon, which just brought everything to light. It really, within this full moon, we can see the whole crux of everything that we're working with for the entire year of 2023. Such a powerful point in time and point of realization, if we'll take a moment to let it sink in. And then we move to the next significant thing that happens, the third quarter moon, April 13th. And that calls for us to bring the new objectives or new projects that we have in mind forward, to bring them into full implementation. Mercury still in this beautiful aspect with Mars, like a very linking, positive aspect, which makes planning really easy. It makes execution really easy. Provided that our purpose is aligned with our spirit and we're clear, then making those things happen in the world should happen with a lot of grace and a fair amount of ease during this period of time in the middle of April. The sun still in a very powerful conjunction with Chiron also, but also now almost exactly conjunct Jupiter, which is going to bring a big impetus for new endeavors, a lot of excitement about new endeavors in our life, perhaps new breakthroughs scientifically. I'm reading about all kinds of new breakthroughs that are happening daily in the science of genetics and automated AI. Automated intelligence, is that an oxymoron? Anyway, we just have a big impetus for a lot of new endeavors during this time.
I think you can call it alternative intelligence.
All right, I think I like that better. We do have one challenge, and that's that Venus has moved into the sign of Gemini, which generally brings us into a time that's highly social. We want to get together with our friends, our relatives. We want to have picnics on the grass. It's springtime. We want to, get together with people, and it's a little bit constrained by a right angle with Saturn, which is basically cautioning us not to get distracted, not to get caught up in other people's ideas, other people's truths, other people's ways of seeing things, fake news, or any news that you don't feel is resonating with truth, but to actually instead come back to your own inner knowing. So we each have a capacity to connect with truth, with essential universal truth, wisdom. And often we reach that through going into a meditative state, a quiet state, a walk in the garden, a time of sitting quietly, a time of prayer, contemplation. But finding that place within us that is the doorway that opens us to our spirit essence is the name of the game right now, and especially this season. So don't let yourself get distracted and caught up in a lot of the details of the things that are going wrong, the things that aren't working anymore, but to see it as a systemic process that all of humanity is going through in order to arrive at a place where we're co-creating as a one world community. To that end, Venus also is in a very powerful and empowering triangle aspect with Pluto, which is, Pluto is the planet of transformation. And this can bring some really favorable opportunities into our lives for healthy monetary flow and for healthy flow of the exchange of ideas and, networking and connection and that sort of thing. So some really lovely aspects happening here right in the middle of April as we move from that full moon into the third quarter moon, and we're in high implementation stage before we get into the next stage, which we'll talk about in a minute.
So here we are from the human design perspective. I'm looking now at the 11th of April, and the Sun and Jupiter come together in the sky. And it's always interesting to see. Jupiter has this 12-year cycle going around us. So, when the Sun kicks in, it does this every 12 years. It joins Jupiter. And here we are in gateway number 42. And in gateway number 42, it's in the lower left corner of the sacral center in the human design chart. And it's the gateway of growth and increase. So in a sense, when I see the Sun lends its energy to Jupiter, or vice versa, Jupiter lends its energy to the Sun, and we're in this area of growth and increase, all kinds of things can start mushrooming. That's my picture of it. It's like a mushroom. So whatever we've got going on in that particular time, especially if the 42 is consequential in your design, you'll just start seeing all kinds of things are going to start popping and taking into a new form. And it's opening up a whole new possibility of experience for us. And very, very quick growth in that regard. A little bit later on, around the 14th, Mars and Saturn do a little bit of a dance together from the 14th to the 26th. Saturn now for this next year or so is going to be in the emotion center in human design. And right now it's exploring spirit, or gateway number 55, the gateway of abundance. Abundance, spirit only knows an abundant lifestyle, an abundant universe, and Saturn can be a little bit restrictive in its way. You've got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. And the thing of it is, when Mars gets in there, Mars kind of stirs things up a bit naturally. And we're in this channel we call the 3955, which is the channel I call the full emotional spectrum. That basically means down in the dumps, up in the clouds, and everything in between. And so there's a massive shift of emotional energy in this time. Mars really penetrating into the Saturnian, we've got to be so restrained and so held back, in the gateway of abundance, where actually maybe not. Maybe we have another look at the whole scene of abundance and what that's all about. And what, does is spirit actually anchored into the earth form, or is spirit just playing within the earth form here? So for this time, it's 10 days in the middle of the month, we're going to have this ruction, I'm going to say, in this channel of what I say is the full emotional spectrum. We're likely to have very high aspirations at one time. We're going to see great disappointments in another. But just to see, everything resolves itself. Whenever I see this channel in somebody's chart, what I say to them is an absolute must. When you're down in the dumps, and it happens, you fly high, you dive deep, but when you're down in the dumps, have your creative tools to hand, whether that's your writing equipment, your drawing equipment, your painting stuff, your writing, your music, your gardening, your cooking, whatever, wherever you apply your creativity, have the tools to hand. And if you go down in the dumps and you're feeling like, wow, I'm all washed up, nothing's going on for me, grab onto those creative tools and see what comes through you. When you're in that deepest place within your side, you're absolutely amazing what can come through. You'll write things or you'll paint things and you look at it later and say to yourself, who on earth did this? And it was you. So just be aware of that very, very powerful time, mid-month in April. Also, we have this time where the sun is going to be in gateway number 3 and the earth in gateway number the sun is in gateway number 3, earth is in gateway number 50, exactly opposite, and the north node destiny for humanity is in gateway number 27. So from the 16th until the 23rd, we have this channel of nurturing and nourishing and taking care of each other, right? Taking care of our community, our family, our business, whatever. So there's this tremendous nourishing effect that takes place. The earth is really where we apply ourselves to bring something substantial together. And the destiny path for humanity is where we kind of maybe expand ourselves into doing something beyond just our normal scope of things, that we put some attention into this. We also have the sun, while it's in gateway number 3, the Pluto is still in gateway number 60. It's going to be there for a long time. And we have this channel of mutation again for a few days, where we're getting this boost. Change is happening anyhow, get used to it. So very, I'm going to say, turbulent or expansive time right there in the middle of April. And just to see, if the bottom drops out of your life for a bit, grab onto your creative tools, see what you can put together in that time, and be prepared to surprise yourself. As Carola says, this is a time of massive reinvention. All kinds of extraordinary things are coming together. Banks collapse, who cares? Get the creative stuff out. Anyway, that's my put for the middle of the month.
Very good. Okay, so we were talking about this eclipse. You were asking about it. So I'm going to talk about the eclipse in a moment, but I want to first address the context this eclipse is happening in. So we're going to have on the 20th, the sun is going to leave the sign of Aries. So we'll be finished with that whole big Aryan push to new adventures, new heights, new objectives, new possibilities. And we're going to move into, on the 20th of April, the sun goes into the sign of Taurus for 30 days. And Taurus is, it's an earth sign. It's a fixed earth sign. It takes the impetus of Aries and it grounds it and gives it form and substance and practicality. So we're going from the vision to the implementation of vision. So that's one thing that's happening. And then as the sun goes into the sign of Aries, the next day, the 21st of April, Mercury turns retrograde. It does that at 15 degrees of Taurus. I don't know where that is in the human design graph, but 15 degrees of Taurus, it's in astrology, it's a very significant point. It's one of the degrees of the zodiac that's a critical degree.
It's gateway number 2.
It's gateway number 2.
The receptive,
right? Which
is where Uranus was all last year and shaking things up.
Right, and where this conjunction's happening too. So essentially, when Mercury turns retrograde, what happens is that all these great plans and ideas and all this big impetus that we have now goes into a period of review. So from the 21st of April through the remainder of the month of April into the first part of May, we're going to have Mercury moving in apparent backwards motion. I can hear the groans now. Don't do that. You don't need to groan. It's okay.
There's other things going on.
It's not a terrible thing. Mercury does this 3 times a year. And what it does is it gives us an opportunity to slow down our momentum a bit, to stop, to look, to assess, to reassess, to complete things that we've left undone, to go back and pick up on those communications that we haven't finished yet, etc., to get ourselves up to date and to bring our systems up to date. And again, a good thing to review during this particular Mercury retrograde is our finances. If you have investments or you have savings or you have, 401ks or whatever, vehicles you have your money in, time to reassess, time to really look at how well is that working for you, and perhaps to make new decisions while Mercury's retrograde, implementing on those new decisions, ideally after Mercury goes direct in May. So we have this big ingress of the sun into Taurus at the same time Mercury standing still in Taurus and about to turn retrograde. And all of that happens in the shadow of the eclipse that happened on April 19th. So April 19th, we have a new moon, which is a solar eclipse. The solar eclipse happens at a really funny point astrologically because it's so each astrological sign has 30 degrees, right? So the solar eclipse is at 29 degrees and 50 minutes. So almost the very, very, very end of the 29th degree of Aries before it enters 0 degrees of Taurus. So it's at this pivotal point that the solar eclipse happens. I mean, essentially, any solar eclipse brings us to a point of recognizing what needs to change at an essential level within ourselves. So it can be a big realization that happens, or an inner realization that happens. It may not be big in terms of changes in our outer life, but it might be huge in terms of internal changes. So what are those changes? The changes in the way we approach things in life, Aries, and changes so that the way that we approach things in life align more with our values, Taurus. This eclipse happening right on that edge between Aries and Taurus. And at the same time, it's also the eclipse point is in a right angle with Pluto, the planet of transformation. So we're going to see, new systems. It's an exact right angle square, which is a point of maximum challenge. We're going to see the new systems and processes for managing energy, for managing our resources, and all of the essential needs of humanity, where we are right now. We're going to see all those needs coming to light. Now, remember, don't let the news that you hear out there unsettle you, because news is always going to focus on the sensational, the things that are, the big, storm that happened and there was a flood here, but not necessarily talking about how much the earth needed to rain, etc. So remember that in the middle of the challenges that we're experiencing, there's some very, very highly favorable energetic possibilities happening that are right here for us to take advantage of. One of them, Mars, now in Cancer, in this really highly favorable aspect with that planetary combination of Mercury and Uranus and Taurus. So it's shaking up all those outdated foundations and values of the previous age and paving the way for us into new innovation.
So just to launch into where this new moon eclipse is taking place, as you say, right at the edge of Aries, just before it goes into Taurus. From the human design, the hexagrams or the gateways in the human design, they kind of overlap astrological signs. And here we're in gateway number 3, which is a gateway of innovating, doing something completely new and different. And it's in the 4th line. And the 4th line is called associating, realigning with your real sense of purpose. your self-assurance and trust, or their lack, allow or reject valuable guidance and company. There is this innovation taking place at the moment, and this new moon eclipse is going to highlight that for all of us. So, you know, the bridge between Aries, you know, and Taurus, and grounding something, or, you know, having the motivation and then grounding it, it's a very, very important time. At the same time, Venus has gone into gateway number 35, and, you know, astrologically, there's a square there with Neptune. Is it a square, or
it's a trine? It's
a trine. So Neptune in the 36, those of you familiar with human design, we now got the channel of 35-36, which is an emotional manifesting channel for a few days. And it's just going to say, you know, moving on. You know, whatever the crisis looks like, let's get it fixed, let's move on, let's get it done. Let's find a new crisis, or let's find something new and interesting to involve ourselves with. At the same time, when Mercury goes this retrograde motion in gateway number 2, the gateway of receptivity, you know, and it's basically a great opportunity. It goes on till the 14th of May. And, you know, it gives us that opportunity to redirect our attention and just see, what have I learned over this last year? All these panic stations and freakouts and this going wrong and, you know, all these crazy things. I mean, Lord, who invents these complications, you know? And just to review it all. And the receptivity in the end is it brings us to a state of personal knowing. There's a difference between knowledge, what we're told, and knowing when the frequency hits us inside and it's just, that's a match, that fits, got it. All right, so Mercury is doing this turn, allowing us to review and reassess what it is that we know. Is it Socratic wisdom, where the only thing you know is you don't know anything? Or is it, you know where you stand at any particular moment in time in your life, in your day? At this time, I looked across the chart for this particular time. We have 4 channels by transit. We have the 2750, which is a channel of nurturing and caring and taking care of each other and ourselves. We have the 3536, this channel, it's like moving on, let's find something else to look at. We have the 360, which is this channel of mutation at the bottom of the chart, which says something very different is taking place here. And we have that channel of 3955, which I was talking about earlier, as the full emotional spectrum. So I don't know who's going to light the fuse, you know, and let it all fly, but it's you know, it's a truly momentous time when Mercury does this turn to give us this opportunity to review. At the same time, all these fireworks go off in other places and other areas of our lives. Sure enough, on the 22nd, the sun goes into gateway number 27. It's the gateway of the and opens up the life theme we call the unexpected. Like, we didn't come here for a dull life. So it's opening up a whole other realm of possibilities as well. And at this time, you know, 23rd, Mars goes into gateway number 53, and we've got Jupiter in the 42. So we have the 53-42, which is this whole thing of opening up a whole new round of experiences for us all. And Mars doesn't just sit around, it gets on with stuff. It provokes, it pushes. And that goes on from the 23rd all the way through to the 30th, the end of the month of April. So, you know, March has been crazy enough. April is also going to watch us catching our breath sometimes. It's like, how can it get crazier? But, you know, there's that whole thing. I know we're having hurricanes in Los Angeles now, you know, whirlwinds in Los Angeles. I mean, you know, the place is going crazy. But, you know, the picture of the hurricane, where do you want to be in a hurricane? Right in the middle, the eye of the hurricane, that you have the crazy going on around you, but you don't jump into it, right? You just stay in your sovereign being, in the center of it all. You're watching it all. It's like, wow, quite a movie, you know, but you're staying right in the middle of it.
And in your truth.
In your truth.
Yeah.
Your truth. It's as good as anyone else's truth, if not better.
I would, and ideally, we don't forget that we're co-creators here. You know, we're all creating. Most of humanity is creating unconsciously.
Yeah.
Those of us who are creating consciously have choices about how we're going to experience whatever challenges are coming up. And that's a choice that we have, that we create for ourselves. We can use the energies of this time to create the outcomes that we desire, that the ones that are really right for us, as long as they're in alignment with our soul path and they are coming from our truth. And we focus our intentional will, our intentional being,
Clarity.
and our clarity, then we create the outcomes that we desire for ourselves. It takes practice. It takes a lot of practice, but this is the time to be practicing. So we're going to be back with you again, actually, on Saturday, the 22nd of April. So I think I'll leave the coming first quarter moon that happens on April 27th for that broadcast, because that coming first quarter moon is going to set the stage for the next eclipse that happens in early June. So we'll be back with you on the 22nd, and we'll look further into this phenomenal year. We hope this has been valuable for you, that you've gotten perhaps some nuggets of information that you can use for yourself and help you to context what's going on all around you and make conscious choices for yourself.
Yeah.
In every avenue, every aspect of your life.
It is truly an amazing time. So have a wonderful month of March and well into April. Ride it out to your best ability. And we'll see you again next month. Bye for now.